G'day ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on this, my journey into the constraints-led approach for BJJ. My name is Sam Battlefields and I am your host. And today we had a fairly fun day. We did stand up, as always. So I'm going to go through a few things that I discovered, mostly for myself, but just overall. I did try something that I will speak about, which I will just make a quick note of while I remember it. But I figured we'd just start with what the games were, and the reason for them. So the first game was stand-up, only shoulder taps. The reason why I wanted to do only shoulder taps to start off with was basically get us all obviously a bit warmed up. But because we did the torso last time, I wanted to sort of shift the focus a little bit and work on that. I also had an ulterior motive, which was I wanted to test to see if this resulted in what I thought it would result in, which is a much more upright fighting position. So, and as it clearly does, because you're not needing to get into the torso, it resulted in that sort of a bit more upright position. And so the second game was shoulder taps. We had the other person judging, so a second person, or like a judge. Essentially, if at the end of the round there was no win, and the win was double enclosure of arms around anything below the hips. So they couldn't double enclose above the hips, but anything below the hips, so single leg, even if you controlled with, say, an ankle, like just an ankle pick and grabbed it. Essentially anything. I mean, it's pretty fucking self-explanatory. I'm going too far on my descriptions, my external language and focus and goals, and I'll get to the reason for that in a minute. But that was a really good one. It made me realise, because one of the reasons why I did it... oh, excuse me, I've just eaten, so sorry. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular game was I was trying to figure out why I hesitated shooting. Now, I agree with any number of the high-level guys that I've heard say that the sort of the Greco, the more upright wrestling, is more relevant for jiu-jitsu, but I've never been someone to hit a blast double or do a single leg, and I want to be able to do that shit. So, and I think part of that, well, what it resulted for me was, being that I'm southpaw when I'm striking, however, when I stand up, I actually favour my left leg as the primary sort of piston to push me up, right? So, being that I prefer that leg, my left leg is behind me, so it's not really the one where I would use to drive forward or drive over and into someone. So it made me realise, and I didn't do it, but it made me realise that I would need to use that was the other thing. It was only shoulder taps with the rear hand, which made it a little bit more difficult, and also meant that you had to be committed. There was a whole heap of stuff. I actually feel like I understand I understand a bit more about MMA constraints than I potentially do some of the things that will come up later. So, for example, and this will be a good segue into that, we went from pocket guard. Pocket guard is when you essentially have your closed guard around them, but you've got their arm across your chest, and so your chest is behind the back of their shoulder and tricep. And in this case, you had a arm over the lat. And Aaron's really good at keeping you there and then executing stuff from that. So I've gotten fairly good at kind of getting my elbow back. And that was part of what I was looking to achieve. But I was also looking for... I wanted to have like the Venn diagram of this sort of technique sort of melding in with the back control later. So there was a reasoning behind it. So the pocket guard was trying to get either chest to back or their back on the floor. However, that works. And the person on the bottom was... on the top... person in guard was looking to get double enclosure on the hips. What was he looking to do? Person on the... it was just trying to... get posture, sorry. The person on the top was just trying to get posture, even if it was just in guard. And then that led... It didn't really lead into, but as I said, it was kind of the Venn diagram sort of connected in that we had back control, and that's going to back control. This time, person's a bit lower in back control, so we've spoken before about like a good back control with chest to back is sort of thinking that there's a spear going through, from your spine through to your sternum and out through their spine and out through their sternum. So, okay, just to let you know that the jumpiness of the last couple of seconds is because my family just came home, and my little boy's been a terror. Anyway, so the spine, sternum, straight through. You know, if you can get a seatbelt on that, that's a good chest to back, right? The thing is like chest to back. Well, where's the chest and where's the back? And anyway, in this case, the person's dropped a bit lower, probably only like 10, 20 inches. About that's a big joke. About that. So I don't even know how many inches that is. A lot. Let's just say a lot. But what I'm saying, it's not far, and the person on the back has double underhooks, and they're holding on that way, so it's not a seatbelt thing. And their goal is to try and get them back up to that ideal sternum sort of spear through. Now, we had like a goal where they would be ear to ear without bending their head down. So they'd be ear to ear without bending their head down. Didn't really matter. It didn't really result in this anyway. But the other thing that they could win by was by gaining mount, and then the person who had his back taken could get both their legs under one leg, or they spun around in that and turned it into guard. So it was essentially looking to get sort of that exit going down instead of the exit coming up. And then an evolution of that game came about where it was like, okay, like let's organise. Let's also throw in that we are starting from seatbelt this time with the ideal chest to chest scenario, and submissions were available for the person on the back, and the person on the bottom was just trying to get out, essentially. So with what we learned throughout the week, essentially. Here's something that it showed for me. It showed me that a couple of things. One, I'm not I'm not on someone's back often enough to understand the controls well enough to be able to. I was able to design the games around it, which was good. And so I understood it well enough to design some games around it. I would just like to be able to play those games a lot more, which is good for my scheduling the curriculum, because the curriculum only has 2 weeks for this, whereas it really we're only a week in. So, but next week I was looking to do more attacks. So I think that back control should definitely be potentially 3 weeks. Because there's the escapes, but there's also the attacks, and then the escapes and the attacks coming together. So look, maybe I change my tune next week when we've done a little bit more in the positions, and so therefore I feel maybe a bit more comfortable, particularly with attacks and that sort of thing. I do actually feel I feel like my armbar attacks from the back are actually fairly decent, and I think part of that is because I was always losing the back control, but I was always keeping one of the underhooks and kind of allowing them to sort of slide away, but working my own timing to get that armbar, and that kind of came back up today in free rolling. I was hitting a few armbar setups, and I lost one, and so I then became just like a fiend for armbars from all sorts of angles. So that second game, really showed me that I don't understand, like I don't get in it often enough, and that when someone's on my back, there was one point where I went, oh, this is somewhere where I normally get to, and I discussed this afterwards. And one of the things that I tended to do was they would have the underhook, and I'd be like, okay, if I can take it, because I'm going to do this, and that you taking that underhook, that arm, is a future me problem, if that makes sense. Whereas in this particular instance, I started doing this thing. I went, oh, hang on a sec, he's got this underhook. What can I do with this? Like, why would I allow him to essentially attack me from this position? So that was something that I'm going to play with quite a bit more next week. And the free rolls were fun this week. This today. Free rolls were really fun. Oh, that was another thing that I was really happy about. In one of the games, can't remember what it was, but in one of the games, Ridwan got me with a armbar, which was, it was really, really good. It was solid, and he just slipped into it and got it. So, one thing that I said today was that I know that my level of skill is going up, But one thing that I really know is that my guy's level of skill is going rapidly up. So we were having a chat afterwards, and Aaron was doing he was explaining what he was doing, and again it was like he was like, yeah, and I pull this up and I do this, and I grab onto him, and I get my hook over here, and I was like, there was a point where it just all went out into the ether for me. I just didn't understand what he was saying, and I realised, I was like, all right, stop, we got to find out what the external language is. And it was really cool. The discussion essentially came about that he is actively trying to understand on an intrinsic level and trying not to understand on an extrinsic level at the moment, because he wants to deepen his intrinsic understanding. And I think that is not only is it a great method, like a great strategy, but I think it's commendable to be able to say that as well, like that, hey, look, I'm going to deepen my understanding before I even try to tell you what the effect is, what the external effect is, which was, I thought that was really cool, and something I learnt on the Discord. So whoever gave me this idea, thank you very much. I don't know, I think it might have been whoever said it, thank you very much. But it was just use the 5 whys. So why are you doing this? Why? I didn't word it exactly like why, but I was like, okay, and essentially it got to a point where I was like, all right, you've got this underhook so that you can stop him getting his second elbow as a frame against your body through twisting. Well, he didn't say twisting, and when I said twisting, he was like, no, I'm not really twisting him because I'm kicking him away. And I was like, yeah, but they're trying to go this way, so if you're kicking him... Anyway, don't worry about it. This is... yeah. But essentially, thank you very much, because I understood what the extrinsic language would be if he was to provide it to me. And so we're going to sit down and do this whenever he starts speaking in his intrinsic language, which is, it's a great little methodology for us to work through that language barrier, which over time, and one of the reasons why I think that I don't have as big of an issue is because when I very, very first started coaching, I broke my hand within sort of 6 months of regularly doing the morning classes. So I broke my hand, meaning that I was unable to participate, so I was looking and wasn't able to even demonstrate in many cases. So I was kind of watching from the outside and watching Aaron do the classes, and so sort of trying to figure out what I could see from an external perspective. So yeah, it was really cool. Really cool to have that realization that sort of having been forced to sit outside allows that to happen. Yeah, so, and another quick thing, I just wanted to, I had a little revelation when we were having a chat, which was, it literally was like I had this light bulb moment where we were having this, it might have even been during the role, but it was like, no, it was during Aaron and Ridwan's role, and it was, I just thought, maybe they were talking, anyway, don't worry about that. There was this point where it was like, like, on when you're too focused on the steps, you're missing everything else. And I was like, oh yeah.
It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
And I will leave it at that. Thank you very much. Like, comment, subscribe. Samception, that would be a better one. This is just a quick little point that I didn't get to make and it was actually the segue that got me to the Bruce Lee part of my segment that I've just spliced this extra little video onto the end of. But in this, I was on the back, and what prompted me to think of this, it's like a finger pointing the way to the moon, is not actually watching someone else, but it was my own self. And I had, earlier on in the morning, I'm prepping, even the night before prepping for this, I'd actually looked up I'd seen a couple of videos a long time ago where it was breaking down how Gordon Ryan collected the arms, and I found myself collecting, going, okay, and while I was in these games, I found myself collecting these, trying to collect the arms in the sequence that I was shown, and it was like, oh yeah, I've got to get this arm, and what did I not see? What did I not see? I did not see the forest for the trees, or all the heavenly glory. Anyway, thanks for joining me. See you in Battlefields. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.